Karen reported my wind chimes, so I built a backyard orchestra. I was sipping coffee on my porch, savoring the gentle tinkle of my wind chimes, when Karen, our HOA's resident tyrant, stormed up my driveway and hacked them down with garden shears. The chimes, my mom's last gift before she passed, hit the ground in a shattered heap, and my heart stopped. Karen's smug, "This is for the neighborhood's peace," echoed as she strutted off, leaving me shaking with rage. Those chimes weren't just decor. They were Mom's lullaby, my comfort through grief. That was the moment I swore. Karen would regret this. I'm Ellie, a 34-year-old single mom and part-time art teacher living in Meadowview, a suburban prison where every hedge is trimmed to HOA perfection. My fixer-upper bungalow, with its wildflower garden and mismatched shutters, sticks out like a sore thumb among the McMansions. My 15-year-old son Max, a tech whiz, and I moved here after Mom's death, hoping for a fresh start. The wind chimes, hand-painted by Mom, hung on our porch, their soft melody a daily reminder of her love. But in Meadowview, anything less than cookie cutter is a crime, and Karen was the judge, jury, and executioner. Karen, pushing 60 with a permed helmet of hair and a wardrobe of clashing animal prints, ruled the HOA like a dictator. She'd fine you for a slightly faded mailbox or lecture you about approved paint shades. To her, I was the neighborhood's black sheep, a sloppy artist raising a troublemaker kid. She'd scowl at Max's skateboard, mutter about my unkempt lawn, and once left a note calling my chimes a public disturbance. I tried to ignore her, but Karen had a knack for making you feel like garbage. It started with an HOA letter, penned in Karen's loopy handwriting, declaring my wind chimes a noise violation and demanding their removal. I laughed it off. Chimes aren't jackhammers. Then came the fines, $25 a day, piling up faster than my art supplies. I appealed at an HOA meeting, holding up a photo of Mom with the chimes, my voice cracking as I explained their meaning. Karen rolled her eyes, snapped, "Rules don't bend for sob stories," and moved on to nitpick someone's fence height. I was done playing nice. Then came the shocker. One Saturday I was prepping for a class when I heard a snap outside. I ran out to find Karen, shears in hand, standing over my mangled chimes. "You were warned," she barked, her eyes gleaming with victory. Max, home from school, saw it too, his fists clenched. Neighbors gawked but stayed silent, except Ms. Rosie, our 70-year-old neighbor with a penchant for tie-dye and conspiracy theories. "That woman's a menace," Rosie hissed, slipping me a wink. "You gonna let her walk all over you, Ellie?" No way. Over pizza that night, Max, Rosie, and I plotted revenge. Karen wanted silence. I'd give her noise, on my terms. The plan: a backyard orchestra of DIY instruments, rigged with motion sensors to play a medley of parody songs, roasting Karen whenever she patrolled by. It'd be legal, loud, and legendary. Max, grinning, said, "I can code the sensors and sync the music." Rosie clapped, offering her junk-filled garage. "I've got tin cans, bottles, anything that clangs." I sketched designs picturing a steampunk symphony of recycled junk. We'd honor Mom's creativity and make Karen squirm. We dove in. Max scavenged old bike wheels and pipes from the dump, while Rosie donated glass jars and a rusty xylophone. I welded frames, painted them in bright colors, and mounted them in my backyard, hidden by a hedge but aimed at the sidewalk Karen frequented. Max wired Arduino boards and sensors, programming them to detect motion and trigger a playlist. I wrote the songs, parodies of pop hits like Karen's Rain to the tune of Purple Rain, with lyrics like, "You fine our yards, you break our hearts, HOA's your cruel game." By Friday, our orchestra was ready, a glorious mess of metal and melody. We worked like a well-oiled machine, transforming my backyard into a musical fortress. Max was a wizard with the tech, rigging the sensors to detect Karen's exact path. She always cut across the sidewalk by our hedge during her patrols. He synced the Arduino to a waterproof speaker hidden in a painted tin can, ensuring the music would hit her like a spotlight. Rosie and I hammered, glued, and strung together our instruments. Bike wheels spun to clang against pipes, glass jars chimed when struck by wooden mallets, and a fan-powered wind organ hummed eerily. I added fairy lights for flair, making the setup glow like a punk rock art installation. By Sunday night, we stood back, sweaty and grinning as Max ran a test. The orchestra blared Karen's Rain, and Rosie whooped, "That's for your mom, Ellie." The next morning, I was a bundle of nerves pretending to weed my garden while watching the street. Karen's patrols were predictable as sunrise. 7:30 a.m., leopard print leggings, clipboard ready to ruin someone's day. Max camped out in his room, tablet in hand, monitoring the sensors. Rosie, in her tie-dye caftan, loitered by her mailbox pretending to check her mail, but really keeping lookout. At 7:29, Karen appeared, strutting like she owned the block. My heart pounded as she neared the hedge. 5 feet, 4, 3, boom! The orchestra erupted, pipes clanging, jars chiming, and the speaker belting. "Karen's Rain. Oh, you're such a pain. Fining all our dreams away." Karen stopped dead, her clipboard clattering to the ground. Her jaw dropped and her eyes darted around like she'd stepped into a trap. The music kept going. "You cut my chimes, you crossed the line. HOA's your cruel charade." She spun toward my yard, but the hedge hid the orchestra, leaving only the glowing lights and mocking melody. Neighbors cracked their curtains, Mr. Jenkins, the young Patel family, even Mrs. Carter, who usually sided with Karen. Giggles spread like wildfire. Karen's face turned beet red, and she stomped her foot, yelling, "This is unacceptable." But the censors caught her movement, restarting the song at full blast. Max, watching from his window, texted me, "Mom, she's losing it." I stepped onto my porch, all wide-eyed innocence. "Problem, Karen? Just added some backyard art, like the HOA encourages." Her glare could have melted steel, but she had no rule to wield. Our art was on private property, and the noise was within daytime limits. "You'll regret this, Ellie," she spat, storming off as the orchestra serenaded her exit with, "Karen's Rain, you'll never tame our hearts." The Patel's kids cheered from their porch, and Mr. Jenkins gave me a nod. Rosie sauntered over, whispering, "Your mom would have loved this." For days, it was pure chaos, in the best way. Every time Karen passed, the orchestra kicked off, cycling through our parody hits. She tried dodging it, crossing the street or speed-walking, but Max had calibrated the sensors too well. She even sent an HOA lackey, her friend Barb, to snoop, but Barb just laughed and said, "Clever setup." The neighborhood buzzed, kids begged to see the music machine, and Mrs. Carter brought me cookies, muttering, "Karen's had it coming." But Karen wasn't done. On day 5, I found a new HOA notice on my door. Excessive noise disturbance, demanding I dismantle the orchestra or face a $500 fine. Attached was a single signature, hers. I was livid, but Max and Rosie were unfazed. "She's desperate," Max said, already plotting. Rosie suggested we go bigger, invite the neighbors to add their own instruments to the orchestra, making it a community rebellion. I loved it. We turned Karen's power trip into a block-wide middle finger. I printed flyers, Max spread the word on the neighborhood group chat, and by Friday we had a plan. A backyard art party to expand the orchestra. Neighbors signed up, bringing scrap metal, old pots, even a broken ukulele. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about us, standing up for our homes, our memories, our right to breathe. The art party was a hit. Neighbors swarmed my backyard, hammering pots into chimes, stringing beads on wires, and laughing like kids. Mr. Jenkins brought a dented trumpet. The Patels added a homemade drum from a paint can. Max wired each addition to the sensors, while Rosie led an impromptu sing-along of our parody tunes. By dusk, the orchestra was twice its size, a dazzling junkyard symphony glowing with lights. We agreed. The next time Karen passed, she'd face the full force of Meadowview's rebellion. I felt Mom's spirit in the chaos, her love for art, for community, shining through. Tuesday evening, we set the stage. Max tweaked the sensors for maximum range, ensuring Karen couldn't escape the music. Neighbors gathered, some in lawn chairs, others peeking from windows, phones ready to record. At 6:45 p.m., Karen appeared, clipboard in hand, oblivious to the trap. As she hit the sidewalk, the orchestra roared to life, drums thumping, trumpet blaring, and Karen's Rain blasting. "You rule, you fine. You're out of line. Meadowview won't bow, Karen yelped, dropping her pen, her face a mask of horror. The sensors cycled through new tracks. The Patel's drum heavy, fine no more, and Jenkins' jazzy clipboards be gone. She stood frozen, lights flashing in her wide eyes. Then came the shocker. In a fit of rage, Karen charged the hedge, yanking at a bike wheel chime. Big mistake. Max had added a low-voltage, deterrent circuit, just enough for a harmless buzz. Karen shrieked, stumbling back, her perm frizzing like she'd been struck by lightning. The crowd erupted, kids howling, adults wiping tears of laughter. The orchestra, undeterred, looped to Rosie's cackling, Karen's blues, singing, "You messed with our chimes, now hear our rhymes." Karen's scream was drowned out as she realized half the block was filming. She flailed, tripped over her own clipboard, and landed in a rose bush, her leopard print leggings torn. The music played on, our backyard masterpiece mocking her retreat. The aftermath was epic. The Patel's daughter posted the video online, and by morning, Meadowview Orchestra Meltdown had 500,000 views. Local news ran a segment, calling it the HOA Rebellion heard round the burbs. Karen's fine was laughed off at the next HOA meeting. Nobody backed her, and the board, fed up, hinted she'd lose her enforcer role. She stopped patrolling, her clipboard nowhere in sight. The orchestra stayed, now a neighborhood landmark. Kids dubbed it Karen's nightmare, and tourists even swung by to see it. For me, it was more than revenge. It was honoring Mom's memory. Her chimes may be gone, but her spirit lived in every clang and note. I was grateful for Max, whose tech skills made it possible, and Rosie, whose fire kept us going. The neighbors' support turned a fight into a family. We started a community art night, painting murals and swapping stories, proving kindness builds more than any HOA rule. Karen thought she could silence us, but we made music instead. Last week, I caught Karen staring at the orchestra from across the street, her face softer, almost sad. Maybe she learned something, maybe not. Either way, we won. Not by tearing her down, but by lifting each other up. Mom would have been proud. The end.